So I don't know if I'm necessarily here to change your mind, but I
Okay.
want to learn more. So
Okay.
why do you think the liberals are the problem?
Okay. So when Trudeau came in, he inherited an amazing opportunity, an amazing flourishing middle class, right?
Okay.
So we had one of the highest living standards in the world for middle class when Trudeau came in. And now, at the end of his reign, we're 33rd in the world for living standards, which, so we have to ask ourselves, what happened in between? What sort of things happened? And the answer is a huge amount of immigration, which is a liberal policy, a huge amount of inflation, which is a liberal policy, really bad
What makes you
environmental.
say that those are only liberal policies?
Well, they're the ones in charge, right? They're the ones printing the money. They're the ones allowing so many people in without like thinking that how it could affect us, right?
That is true, but the liberals did have minority government, so it's not like they had all the power.
But they had the executive power, right? So the argument could be made that it was the Liberals and the NDP for a short period of time, but the Liberals still had the executive power,
Okay.
right? So they were the ones that put forward the budget, said this is what we're going to spend, and then they went and spent over budget, which is another thing, right? But they're the ones who were spending the money, and I see them spending it very ill, and it's I don't like they're not being what they should be, and I don't think they're representing the best interests of Canadians, right? Because from what I see, they're just trying to increase bureaucracy and increase government control in everything, right? Like they said, oh hey, we're gonna change everything. We're gonna fast track our development of our natural resources. We're gonna create another department in our government
Okay.
that's just gonna do what all the other departments are doing. So they've done that, and I forget the name of it, but it was a recent addition to our federal government, another thing of the administrative state. And all it does is take what we've already been doing, and it's not going to fast track anything, right?
Yeah.
So, and they've done that with other things too, like cybersecurity, which we already have the laws on the books to,
No, like I can fully understand and agree with that. I don't like how censorship has been like becoming an increasing concern, but I don't think that the Conservative Party is the answer either, honestly. Especially with how ineffective they've been, you know.
Okay.
And this is not generally a concern that I just share with the Conservatives. It's a concern I share also with the Liberals. It's a concern that I also share with the NDPs. I don't necessarily think that yes, the Liberals definitely had issues, but I don't think it's just limited to them. I think it's just a wider error in the Canadian political system.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think we need like political reform. The rain's coming back, but I think we need some political reform. So I've been very open with my critique of how our political system is set up in Canada. We only have one area of our government that is representative government, and everything else is like literally appointed by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is literally, people talk about no kings. Well, the Prime Minister is literally a king. He has so much authority. He advises the Governor General, and the Governor General has this huge swath of authority. The Governor General is really only ceremonial, and then everything resides with the Prime Minister. So I would like to see there more checks and balances to not that we should take away so much power from the federal government, but we would split it up and divide it up into groups so that no one person can take all the power and control, and it's a guard against a dictator, right? Like, I prefer a little bit of what they have in the States, where the Senate is elected, and then the legislative is elected, the Congress, and then the president is elected as well. All of those are elected branches that the people have a say in. And then for the president's administration, the Senate has to approve it, so they have a say, and then the Congress has to say in like bills and money. So it's all divided up, and the Supreme Court has to go through like the Senate and stuff to be approved.
But how would, I can see how division will stop centralization of power, which I do think is an issue, but how will it increase representation?
So the people will have more say, right? So right now we don't decide who the governor general is. Like, that's a pick of our prime minister.
Yeah.
And whatever the prime minister thinks is what we get, right? And our Supreme Court, yes, the governor general has authority to appoint them, but really it's on advice of the prime minister. And then the Privy Council is appointed by the governor general on advice of the prime minister.
Yeah.
So it's like, he's literally a king. Like, how could anyone deny it, right? So I want there to be more checks and balances. So I wouldn't necessarily say we need our senators appointed by like election, but I do think they should be appointed by the provinces.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess I'll expand on what I kind of meant a bit
Okay,
more.
yeah.
So I can see the idea that the liberals are a problem. I don't think they're the problem. I think they're a symptom of a wider problem, in that a lot of the concerns that the average citizen actually has in Canada aren't actually represented in a lot of what is happening in the government. And I don't think that would change whether we have a liberal or a conservative party. I think there's a big divide in what the, let's say, elite, for lack of a better term that I can come up with, live, and what they think Canada is, and what the average person thinks Canada is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I don't think the conservatives understand that either.
Yeah. So, I guess your concern would be like what we consider like the administrative state, so unelected officials?
What do you mean by that?
So, I really need to do more research on how it works in Canada, but in the States, when they want to do legislation, like there is some power to do that in Congress, but then they have all sorts of administrations. So like the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and other places, they come up with the policy. They're unelected officials, and they come up with their environmental policy. And I think that might be the same in Canada. The unelected officials that don't always have Canadians' best interest at heart coming up with the policies that we then have to abide by. So is that your major concern?
I guess that's one symptom of, like, yeah, that's gonna be an issue that definitely leads to what I described. But like, here, let's talk about the people who were in power in Ontario, for example, for quite a while. Again, the Conservative Party under Doug Ford.
I wouldn't consider it conservative. Oh my goodness.
I know, there's a big difference between conservative in Ontario and conservative in Alberta. I'm not here necessarily to talk about values, because I know, like, obviously the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party are gonna represent people from different backgrounds and different values. I just think that it doesn't, and I think it's the same thing even in the US, honestly. It doesn't matter who's in charge. My life is not gonna change. So why should I really care who gets in, or why should I really care who wins when my life is not going to be impacted from either party, because they don't really care about how me, an undergrad student who has ambitions, or like an up and coming, adult, wants to see happen in Canada. My voice isn't being heard. My concerns aren't necessarily sometimes even cared about. So, and I don't think that's necessarily a problem that's just with the Liberals. I can also see that within the Conservative Party. If anything, I can go on a further step and say I think that's one of the reasons the Conservative Party didn't win, when they probably had a really good shot at it this year, with like everything that happened around the
we might get another election really soon.
Who knows? But again, like, I don't think it's gonna change anything.
Yeah. I think it could change a little bit. Like, as far as, like, the policies, like, major policies, as far as, like, the Bill C-69, for one thing. But I think, see, a lot of people rag on Donald Trump for being, aggressive, but one of the things that he is trying to do, at least what I'm seeing him try to do, is dismantle the administrative state to some extent. Like, go after these unelected officials. And they're screaming about it because they're going to lose all their funding and their jobs and their authority, right? These elites. And we need at least a little bit, we need a little bit of that in Canada. We at least need to have people know what these administrators are doing.
I see.
right? We should know who they are because we don't, and then
I see your point,
Yeah.
and I can like me personally, I wouldn't say Trump is doing that, but I can see your
Yeah.
point, and I'm gonna like consider that. I like even let's say we do go ahead and do that. How am I gonna still be represented within the new government, even if the elites are gone away and like we
Yeah.
do have reform? Is that something that's even possible?
well,
Because I can
Yeah.
argue that Trump and his establishment, again, not really considering values or party allegiance or whatnot, I can consider them to be elites as well, if you know what I mean.
as some of them, yeah,
Because, like, I wouldn't call Elon Musk, for example, anti-establishment. I wouldn't call Trump himself to be an anti-establishment.
okay,
There's certainly not, like, even the JD Vance, he was, if anything, a prop as well. Like, he was propped up into his position. He was nepoed in. Same thing with Kamala. Like, I'll dig into both sides. I think Kamala being the primary candidate was completely wrong. But I
without
think
election.
exactly. But I don't think I think the criticism should also extend both ways if we're gonna talk about the U.S. Because even if we remove the elites, who are we gonna put in instead? They're gonna put in other elites who
Yeah.
are also gonna be entrenched and are
Yeah.
gonna become the new establishment.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer. That's why I'm watching the U.S. very closely to see what happens there because, well, at least something must be happening because like anyone in the administrative state and those people that are being paid off, like the Democrats to some extent are being paid off. They get a lot of donations from Big Pharma and other places, right?
But the Republicans do as well.
They do, right? So, and the administrative state seems to be screaming about it. So something must be happening, and that's why I'm kind of watching closely to see what will happen. And I don't know what the solution is. I know that there needs to be one. That's kind of why I'm doing this, to kind of get people together, organize them if they feel that they're not being adequately represented. We need to get together as a community, as people with shared values, and organize and be like, okay, this is the sort of thing that we want. This is the policy that we want. We want you to look into this and be such a great force that they can't deny us. Right? That's my whole goal with this. And hopefully, along the way, we'll come up with a solution to the administrative state. And I'm hopeful, I'm prayerful that we'll find one. Right? Until then, I don't know.
No, like I know it is a loaded question,
Yeah.
but that's why, like me personally, I legit don't care who I speak with. Like obviously I have my own values, but I don't like it doesn't matter whether I speak to a liberal or left-leaning individual or right-leaning individual. I think we're just losing the bigger picture when we're discussing these things on a smaller level. When at the end of the day, we're not being represented. What we are concerns, which a lot of our concerns are actually bipartisan and have equal support from both left and right
I think
spectrum.
so, yeah.
Like for example, I'm pretty sure both sides aren't okay with the homelessness issue, the opioid epidemic
think
that's
so.
going on, or like again, like I don't know if you're from Hamilton, but like the state that
Liberal
Hamilton
is
is under right now, like
Yeah.
those are all issues that, and
yeah.
even wealth inequality as well, at least to a certain degree, those are all issues that we can agree on, but nothing is changing. So what
Yeah.
makes us think that if those things that we can agree on, we're not being able to do any change because of the said establishment? Why are we busy ourselves dividing between the smaller issues?
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, I know. I understand what you're saying. For my part, I do hope that the Conservative Party will be at least some degree better than the Liberal Party. That is my hope, right?
I think you're optimistic, which honestly, like that's a good thing. I just wish I was optimistic about anything changing. I've seen enough. I think I'm still young, but like I've been through the 2019 election. I've been through the previous election. Nothing's changed. And that,
well,
like,
it has been the same outcome, though, right?
Yes.
We've had the same outcome. People are still
that is true.
voting the same party, and which I mean,
But like even within the U.S., for example, which we've used as an example, doesn't matter whether it was Democrat or Republican. Like, yeah, again, there will be changes, obviously, in like how certain social issues are dealt with,
Yeah.
which is like, yeah, like that can happen, but ultimately, our daily lives doesn't change.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, definitely.
And like, again, I do think, I hope the younger generation, like you said, like does become more aware, learns about things
Yeah.
like that, because I think we need to unite versus Canadians,
Yeah.
and make sure that we are able to get somewhere before we can represent our values, before we can represent our communities. Because if we're just going to divide ourselves, then of course nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
And like, yes, like I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but like, I guess I'm just wrapping things up. I have my own values, you have your own values. There will be some things we agree on, there will be some things we disagree on. But before we go to the things that we disagree on, why don't we try and fight for, the bigger picture problems first?
Yeah. Yeah. I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
At least that's why I don't
Yeah.
think liberals are the problem. They might be a problem, but who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Right.